that was put out in 1986. Let's see.
Oh my God. Everybody has the same hairdo. Holy shit. Palace of Oblivion, Divine Right, Hellion, Siren, VVSI, Ruby Slipper, 69, Night Stalker, Assassin, Nightmare 2, Savage Grace, and No Sugar.
Several of them bands got signed to some major labels.
Yes, they did. Nightmare 2, produced by The Rod. That would be you. Oh my God.
We were on like 4 or 5 different compilation albums.
There's Tommy Gunn over here on this other one.
And those got distributed. They're all over the world. And that album used to go for $5 or $10 back in the day. And if you find one of them on eBay, you're lucky to get one for $50 or less.
Really?
Yeah.
That's cool. That's so cool. You know, all the artists that come in here, the original ones, you know, I'm always telling them, you got to at least do one vinyl. At least one. Because no matter what, music always sounds the best on vinyl. It just does, I think.
One of our albums, 1986, Nightmare 2, The Edge of Night, is getting ready to be re-released in Poland on Skull Records in Poland.
Really?
It's going to be on CD.
Very cool.
And I think they're going to send it to some South American country, and they're going to put it out on vinyl again.
Very
so
cool.
they're bouncing all over the place.
That's awesome, as long as they get it right.
And like back in the day, those used to go for $5, and now on eBay they're like well over 100.
Did you ever think that back then, when you were making $5 for each one, that would happen?
No.
I mean, honestly.
No.
I can't imagine anybody thinking that way. That's just badass.
We're just lucky because we were part of the scene back at that time. We were part of the history. There's a label in Chicago that's putting out a two album compilation of the LA metal scene back in the 80s, and one of our songs is going to be on it.
Very cool.
And they're putting out a book with it. A book and a booklet.
A tell-all?
Yeah.
Yay! Everybody wants to hear the roadie stories. They want to hear about, you know, the girls and the guys and the parties and what was really going on, because, you know,
well, okay.
It just makes them more human. It makes everybody more human.
This
what's that one?
This album here was just re-released, and it's the same story. This is on a German label, but when it was the first copy is this one right here, Death Do Us Part. Well, can you show? Yeah, can you show that? Can people see that too? All right. Well, that one came out in 1985, and that was on our own label, Raucous Records. And same story, same scenario. We sold them for $5 a pop. There's a couple albums in there, but we sold them for $5 a pop, and now they go for over 100. Well, anyway, a German label got a hold of us and said, "Hey, you know what? We like that record. We would like to re-release it because they're hard to come by. They're expensive. Blah blah blah." So they re-released it, and we added 5 more tracks to make it a full album.
So cool.
But that's the same thing.
Oh,
And-
I like this cover. This is really
And now you can get them on eBay. That particular record, instead of $100, you can get them for like $25 to $30.
Wow. You should autograph them.
Well, you know what? If you open it up, you'll see a bunch of stuff in there. I've added some stuff to them.
Oh my goodness. But I like the fact that, oh, there's your pictures. Oh my God. That's so cool. Retro pictures. We got a million of them. You should do a page. Do you have a page for all this?
Yeah. I have a Nightmare 2 page on Facebook.
Oh, very cool.
And a Rotten Rod page on
Who's
Facebook.
that baby?
That's me. That would be me.
Did you see Lloyd Tweezy? Check these out.
We were serious back then.
Look at that baby. Isn't that great? This is awesome. So where'd you start out? Which was your first band? And give me a little.
I started in Illinois. And
Really?
that was in 1978, and I started with a band. Well, a couple of different ones, but the ones that were gigging was Agent Orange.
Oh, really? Very cool.
And in Raw 10, RAW10, Raw 10.
And how long were you with those guys?
You know what? That lasted those gigs lasted till 1982
That's great.
when I decided to move to California.
Mm-hmm.
So I bought an old Chevy van,
Sounds like a song.
painted it black,
Yeah.
put a great big white skull and crossbones on it, loaded up all my gear, and I headed to California. And if you
Nobody went with you?
no, I flew solo. But right
Oh.
there's a picture of that van.
Oh my goodness. Holy shit.
And when I used to drive up and down Hollywood Boulevard, tourists would take pictures of that van thinking it was something out of the Munsters.
Look. See? On the bottom. That is so great. How many girls did you really get in that van? Do
Oh,
we want
boy.
to know?
Oh boy.
Oh boy, oh boy. That was before there was Red Bull and puppies,
Yeah.
right?
Well.
Yeah, I know. You had the candy they wanted, didn't you?
Oh, boy.
Yes. Oh, don't act like you don't know. This is great. You've got all kinds of great pictures here. Elmo's. That's not Elmo's.
Limos.
Lamos. I was like that better.
That was
It
Riff
wasn't
Raff. That
Elmo's.
was
Yeah,
my band back here.
that's very cool. You got some freaking awesome. So your Halloween party, Halloween.
Yeah.
Did you do one this year?
No, but I'm doing one next year.
You got to. So, but if you want a great Halloween band, I mean, you should put together a whole bunch, put a few bands in there, yours and them. Get Torchlight Parade because they put on a whole show.
Really?
They're freaking awesome. Yeah, they're an original artist, and yeah, they're great. Some people say they're heavy. I don't know. I think everybody has a different version of what's heavy. It's some people say.
Well, who's in the band? Is there anybody I know in the band that plays
No,
Charlax or?
Well, somebody says that they played at Charlotte a couple times.
Uh-huh.
They did a Halloween party there, or they were going to. They did New Year's, but they did. I don't know. There's like how many people in that band? 1, 2, 3, 6 people in that band. But they put on a whole show. They do a whole Jason thing, and or whoever one of the bad guys was. Was it Jason? I don't know. But yeah, they have a different sound. Some say it's heavy. I don't know if it's that heavy, but it's somewhere in the middle. But yeah, it's good. They got a great sound. And they're a lot of fun. Those guys are a blast. They have the whole family. I mean, their whole family goes with them. Wives, girlfriends, kids, the whole bit.
The bands I've been in, Nightmare 2 was heavy metal.
Mm-hmm.
And I was also influenced a lot by punk.
Mm-hmm.
So I did the metal thing. When I first moved to California, I played guitar. And I got out there and everybody was Eddie Van Halen. And I was embarrassed. I just set my guitar down and concentrated on being a front man.
Mm-hmm.
And there was the punk crowd, punk clique, and there was the metal clique.
Right.
And I fell into the metal clique, and I went from wanting to be Johnny Rotten to wanting to be Rob Halford.
Right.
So, and at that time, Nightmare 1 was actually before Nightmare 2, naturally. So I was with a band called Nightmare 1 for a year, and we broke up, and I started a Nightmare 2 and threw together a lineup. And my first lineup, I had Joey Allen from Warrant in my lineup.
Very cool.
And 3 of the songs on this EP he co-wrote with me.
Very cool.
And that lasted for a while, and also at the same time, I introduced him to Eric Turner, which is the other guitar player from Warrant.
Right.
And Eric auditioned and did not make the cut.
What?
But anyway, later on,
he went home and he studied.
well, he moved to Hollywood and became famous.
Right.
And then he drug Joy along with him.
Right.
And but back then, the Nightmare 2 gig, the heavy metal gig, was my most, actually, I'm not going to say the one I had most success with, but it was the most popular with the record labels.
Right.
The record labels were into metal, and I put out a bunch of product with Nightmare 2 on a bunch of different labels.
Mm-hmm.
They were all small labels. I never did get picked up by a major, but they were all small labels. But they're all over the place. I'm on like a half a dozen different labels. And I don't know where I'm going with this, other than the fact that I'm still being approached by labels
That's cool.
for heavy metal.
There's no small labels. There's only small minds. But I mean, yeah, that's cool that they're still out there. You know, they're still trying to
Well, you know,
make something. You know, and still put music out. That's admirable. That's freaking awesome.
metal is still big, and it's huge in Europe. I have several friends that were in metal bands in California, as a matter of fact, and they resurrected their bands because they were in demand in Europe.
Yeah, we
And they've
love
been-
it here.
And they've been going over there and playing.
There's nothing wrong with that. What I don't. It's so wild that over in Europe or any foreign country, I mean, Japan, it doesn't matter. Anywhere other than the United States, they love the Westerners. You could go over there, put a live chicken on your head, and sing the stupidest song, and they just go crazy over it. I don't know what the deal is, but they love the Westerners.
I'm buddies with Chris Holmes from Wasp,
Right.
and he has not been in Wasp for a long time, and he put together a gig out in California called Psycho Squad, and I knew all those guys, was buddies
Okay.
with them, and they just could not get it off the ground, and he got frustrated and moved to France, and he's doing really well in Europe.
Oh, yeah,
He's
isn't
doing
it
real well over
crazy?
there.
Yeah, I've got a friend of mine. He's rest in peace, Mike. He was a B drummer at best. I mean, he wasn't gonna set the world on fire. He was all about just being a drummer and the girls.
Yeah.
So as far as sitting down and learning to be a better drummer, it was all about the girls. And there's nothing wrong with that. And he got in a band with 4 other guys. They went to Europe and had the time of their lives. I mean, they were 19, 20 years old with the hair and the spandex and the whole 9 yards. And I've seen pictures of it. He says, we look better than we played, trust me.
Yeah.
But it was because they were Westerners and they were over there and
Yeah,
they just went crazy over him.
right on.
But they were in Germany, and he's talking about they lived in the hostels, and they were just all over the place. He said, I don't think I slept the whole 3 or 4 years I was there. I said,
Well,
he said, and I had a good time. I said, well, there you go. He wouldn't hurt anybody, but still, it's just Cassandra Leah. She went to, you know who Cassandra Leah is? She's the singer for Dirty Mugs. Cute, gorgeous redhead, little petite thing. She got approached and went to one summer. She went to play in Japan,
yeah.
and she said it was insane. I mean, it was just like she was a multi-million-dollar platinum rock star singer because she was treated like that celebrity that she is. That's freaking awesome. But she was only there for like 3 months, and she said it didn't matter if I sang it right or wrong. It was just they just love the Westerners.
Right
It's
on.
crazy. But then they still watch old reruns of crap from the 70s too.
One of the labels that worked with us and it liked us was a small label in Maywood, California. And David Richards, he had several different labels. One of them was Ironworks, one of them was Azra, and his forte was making picture discs in different shapes. And this is one of the ones he made for us. And like, same as always, back in the day,
Oh,
they
who doesn't love
but now you're hard pressed to get one of them for under $100
Oh,
on eBay.
man, I love Batman. Look at this. How cool is that? Ah, that's badass. Batman! That is so cool. But you can't play it. You can only play it from here.
Yeah.
Oh, no, you can.
Yeah, it's got 2 songs on there.
That is so cool. How neat is that?
But he put out a bunch of different discs. We had one was
That isn't pretty.
a hockey mask, a Jason hockey mask single. One was a goat head, like a satanic goat head, and a few others.
That is so cool. That is awesome. So, did you write all the songs, or did you collaborate with everybody?
You know
or
what?
Would depend on the band that you were in.
I basically, for the most part, worked with the guitar players. They would come up with the licks and the riffs and the chops, and I would put the words to it.
Very cool. That's awesome. Are you still doing that?
No, we haven't been. I haven't been messing with any originals for a long time.
Really? Why not? Because the covers are easier to play?
Well, it gets frustrating after a while if your stuff's not being played, or it's like you feel like you're beating your head against the wall and you're getting nothing in return.
I know. It's not like it was back in the day when you could go to the landing and people sought out, porcelain. They sought out the Urge. They sought out, Broken Toys and King of the Hill and, all those bands that were always playing original music. Now the original artists that are really good, they pepper their songs in there. And there's one band in particular, Hooky. They are freaking badass. They're a three-piece, and their original songs are so good. They don't even tell anybody they're playing original. They'll just play it in the middle of their cover set because they love the covers, of course. But it's sad that they have to spoon feed their songs to people, because if you don't have originals, you can't have covers. Chicken egg thing, Just saying.
1986, the album we put out, The Edge of Night, Nightmare 2, that's the one that's getting ready to be reproduced over in Poland.
Mm-hmm.
One of the cuts off that, I do not know how, I have no idea, but it ended up on a bunch of episodes of Beavis and Butthead. And I have no clue how they got a hold of it.
Awesome.
But it just, all of a sudden, I started getting royalty checks.
Well, at least they paid you.
Yeah. And
Did they pay you enough?
You know what? I made a few grand off of it.
Well, that's cool. That's awesome.
And they lasted for as long as that show was on the air. And it somehow, it wasn't just on one episode. It was on about a half a dozen different episodes.
Very cool. How cool is that?
I don't know whether they found it in a cutout bin at an old record store or what, but they just...
No, like me, they probably just go and look. You can put anything in a search engine and find stuff, and it's just, I find so many. I can't believe how many original artists are here in St. Louis. It's not just the main ones who always play, and there is a bazillion of them here, and they all have a great sound. And it's sad that some of the ones that are underappreciated or don't get the recognition that they should. But they still just keep playing, which is, so we got to give them a shout out just because they don't give up. So I have an app. It's 365 Live, or Live 365. I can't remember how it's worded. But anyway, and it's got my emblem on it, and you can download it on either phone, and it has my collection of original music on it. It plays 24/7. It's got all the genres in it, so I'll add your songs that you just gave me into that, and which is cool because anybody can listen to it at any time. And I didn't realize how big my collection was. I had a DJ from Keishi and a DJ from somewhere else hit me up and asked me to bring my music into the studio, and I'm like, no, I'm not giving you my... It goes back to the 70s. And I've got stuff on there. Right now I'm up to about 3 weeks worth of music that you can listen to nonstop of original artists that I have albums or 45s or CDs. I've even got a few 8-tracks, believe it or not. Somebody's knocking on our door. Or either that or it's Stump. But then again, who knows? Which I thought was kind of cool. I was like, holy shit. And a lot of the musicians, unfortunately the ones who are not around anymore, may they rest in peace, I hope they can hear all this because their music didn't die, whatever band they were in. But a lot of the musicians, as you know, have all switched up into different bands, and they've been playing forever and ever and ever, and it's just one of those things. I just hate the fact that the landing went to the shithole, and there's nothing down there anymore. It's just a write-off for all the fat cats who bought up all the property down there.
Mississippi Nights.
Oh, Mississippi Nights, Kennedy's.
Night Moves.
Oh, man, all those great
Stages.
places. Stages. That was the first place I ever sang, was 1983. I was thrown up on the stage. It was Bob Flynn. The band was called the Jets at the time, and then they changed it to Boyfriend. He said, your first song you're going to sing at your birthday, Joan Jett's I Love Rock and Roll. And he pushed me out on the stage, and I was like, the whole place was packed, but it was always packed. It was just stages, Fat Cats, Wood River Music Room, Granny's Rockers, all those cool places. So you were still here, though, right? You went to all those?
Yeah.
Because you grew up in Southern Illinois?
Yeah.
Drinking age was 18.
We used to hang out at a place called the Bunnell Coliseum.
Very cool.
Yeah, which used to go off.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, that was back when you could throw a rock and hit any venue, and there was badass music coming out of it. And I would have to say 75% of it was original, and people were just so into it. They were just drank it up. They just ooh, and it's a new song, and they were right there cheering everybody on. And we had so many original venues that played a lot of original. Cicero's, that was a badass place. They were around. Did you ever go there?
I'm not sure.
It was God, they were one that's been around. They were around, I want to say as long as Pops was, the original Pops.
Mm-hmm.
But they had it was standing room only in that place all the time. But now there's very few venues that just do original music.
Yeah.
And the artists that do the original artists do, when they go out and play, they still have to play covers because that's what everybody wants to hear.
I've gone to the Foo Bar a few times. Is it still around or is it gone?
Foo Bar's gone. Now, before COVID, Bob opened, he had Foo Bar, and then he opened up Red Flag, which was right across the street. It was the same owner. But Foo Bar, he lost that. It's now a restaurant, but Red Flag is still open. And it's a cool venue. Unfortunately, I guess because of COVID or whatever, he's changed it where you basically have to pay to play there. Because you can get 4 or 5 bands together in a group to play a show, and then each band member has to sell at least 15 tickets.
It's like in California.
Yeah, if you don't sell them, you got to pay the bar owner what you didn't sell, and then he still charges a cover at the door, whether somebody bought a ticket from you or not. So the bands are not making any money at that venue.
Well,
but it's a cool venue to play at. You know, it just depends on what you want to put up with.
the gigs like that, like the Whiskey a Go-Go and stuff in California, you've been doing that for years, and you got X amount of tickets, and it just depends on how much you want to sell the tickets for.
Right.
If it's a $10 ticket, you can sell it for $10 and get your money back, or you can sell it for $20 and make $10.
Right. To cover the ticket you didn't sell.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, or vice versa, you know, whatever. But it's just, it's hard to, especially these young kids, like the kid bands that are coming up. And, you know, I hate that for them that they have to hustle like that to, you know, sell their tickets to have people come see them. But they can, because grandmas and grandpas and parents all want to, you know, go see their kids.
That's been the forte in California for years.
Yeah. Yeah,
Pay to play.
Yeah, Sammy plays. Well, he still plays at the Go-Go with whatever bands he's, you know, doing that week. So, but yeah, I started calling Charlock a Go-Go, because that's our Charlock a Go-Go. It really is. I mean, Judy's, shout out to Judy. I mean, she's had that bar she's going on 22 years next year. You know, probably one of the oldest bars around here that's still rocking out.
Yeah.
I mean, when Cadillac Jack's closed, you were probably already gone by then. Do you remember Cadillac Jack's?
No.
Huge biker bar, and I say biker bar because I don't want to put it in a title, but it was huge, but it kind of went to the wayside. I mean, there was a lot of things happening there that did not ever get explained, or there was never a real good, I don't know, it was just not good. But when they closed that place, everybody converged on Charlock, you know, so, and there's still people who won't go to Charlock because they think it's a bad place, and I'm like, no, you can't go wrong going to that place.
The thing I got to say bad about that place is sometimes it's hard to find a parking spot.
Yeah, I know, and all the best musicians play there. I mean, they do.
Yeah.
And it's got great sound. I mean, that little room has got badass sound. It really does. It's amazing. And, you know, it's got a killer jam session Thursday nights. I need to see who's playing there this weekend. She's got, so Saturday night, Rock Bottom's going to be there. And then, who was it Friday? Oh, Broken State. You know, Dana and Tom and all them. You don't know Dana? So Broken State apparently is done. I guess they're hanging up that band because all the people in the band have other projects going on. So I think it's their last night. Yeah. I mean, sometimes you just get burnout, or sometimes you just run out of stuff and you just don't want to do the gig, or, you know, I know one of the musicians in that band, he's in 2 or 3 other ones, and I know it's kind of a stretch sometimes, but.
That's the scenario for AZDZ.
I know.
My drummer, Mark Scroy, he's in a bunch of different acts, and my guitar player, Scotty Abney, he's in a bunch of different acts.
Is he not a sweetheart or what? He's
somehow
like everybody's brother. He's just the sweetest guy in the world. He's just so nice. I've never seen him get upset or, you know, be a jerk to anybody. He's just a really nice guy. And he can do his thing.
Yes, he can. He doesn't mean Angus.
And what about you? You kind of like that band, don't you? That's been your home for how many years now?
7.
7. Very cool. But you guys are doing a lot of out-of-town stuff.
You know what?
aren't
we
you?
haven't been gigging for quite a while because these other guys are busy. We're waiting for them to slow down.
Right.
And Scotty joined an AC/DC band that tours, so he's been gone a lot.
Well, see, I thought you were with him.
No.
Oh, okay. Then I'm an idiot. I did not know that. I thought that was all y'all.
No.
Wow.
That's just Scotty.
Mm.
He's in Hell's Bells and also I can't think of the other one. But it's the same band, but they got two different booking agents.
No.
And
Well, he's got to go where the money is. You can't
Yeah.
fault him for that.
yeah,
And but the more they get out there, they can still get gigs. I
Big
know
Gun.
that.
That's the other band. Big Gun and Hell's Bells.
Oh, very cool. Awesome. And you guys just sit here patiently waiting for him to come home.
Well,
It's all good. But I mean, summertime, that's usually this summer. I'm glad it started picking up more. So hopefully next year it'll be, we just got to get back to where we were
Yeah.
before. And, because there's so many venues closed or it just didn't. And then there's a few that are staying open, but they can't afford to pay bands, But if you want to come in and play for free, they'll let you.
oh boy, been there, done that.
Well, when the pandemic, when it first hit and, everybody closed up, there was a few bars that were staying open to serve food and sell food. And St. Charles Music House was the first venue to have musicians start playing again. And Guy Kingsbury said, I'll play for tips. And he got in there and, I mean, the place was packed. He made more money in that tip jar, that first gig. And Lehman, the owner of St. Charles Music House, he flipped a $100 bill in there. Excuse me. So, which was awesome. But I mean, that was it just shows you how starved we are for,
Yeah.
our guys and girls to get up and play. But yeah, and then it kicked off after that. I mean, there were other bars that were saying, yeah, if you want to come in and play for tips, you're more than welcome to. But they were just so strapped with, just trying to get the doors open. People don't realize it's not just about selling booze, because it's not. You've got all kinds of shit you got to deal with. But
That's why so many of them's gone out of business.
I know, because they couldn't afford it. It's really sad. I just hope that, it all turns around and we just get back on the right track and keep playing music. Rock on.
I think we are.
So you going to start another project, or are you just going to wait on Scott?
No, I got a new gig. I'm ready to start rehearsals right now. It's going to be called the Rat Rods.
Right, and who's in that band?
You know what? It's my old Riff Raff lineup. And we are going to put together an act with a bunch of old cover tunes pertaining to automobiles and motorcycles, with the sole purpose of playing car shows and motorcycle shows.
You got to do some Jan and Dean. You
Yeah,
got
no,
to.
we got
I
Dead
mean,
Man's
I've got
Curve.
like 6 of their albums. I love listening to them when I was a kid.
Dead Man's Curves in there.
Dead Man's Curve, yes. Oh, what a killer song. Yes, very cool. Who else was due? Who was
I
the
got a
other?
whole list of them.
Oh my God.
Sammy Hagar, Can't Drive 55.
No, I was thinking about that era.
Hmm.
Who was the other? There was another one.
The Beach Boys.
Well, of course, the Beach Boys. Yeah, they were fun. They were a blast. Oh God, I love them. They were great. I got to meet what's his name? Blackie. What's his name?
Brian Wilson.
No, he played Blackie on General Hospital. John Stamos. John Stamos toured with the Beach Boys at one time. I was living in Memphis. I was a bartender at Studebaker's, and I'll never forget, it was kind of slow that night. And he just came walking in the door, and I was thinking, that is not Scott. That is not him. No way. And I was running around the bar, and I almost ran right into him. And I looked up, and I went, oh, my God, it's you. And he said, it's you. And I said, no, it's you. And he said, where's the bathroom? I said, it's right there. And then he came out of the bathroom, and I was like, oh, my God, it's really him. And I said, what are you doing here? He said, well, I'm filling in. He was touring with the Beach Boys. I got a kiss right here from him. So then I went home and told my husband. He's like, what are you doing kissing all these guys? I'm like, well, he's kind of a rock star. And I remember when he was on General Hospital, everybody just threw a fit over him. I was in college at the time. We all literally scheduled our classes around the soap operas on ABC.
Oh, boy.
I know, isn't that terrible?
Did
General
he play with
Hospital.
Rick Springfield? Was he on there, too?
Oh, Rick Springfield. Oh, he's still my heart. I got to meet him a few years later. It was 2015 when he played River City. What a nice guy. I mean, what a super nice guy. But yeah, he was doing a solo act, and it was a really cool show. He did really well. And you never think you're going to meet these people, and you're just like, oh my God. But yeah, back in the day. Back in the days in what were you doing in 1980?
I was up banging my head in Los Angeles.
What did you like the most about LA? Everything or just
You know what? The weather,
Oh yeah.
the pretty girls,
Mhm.
and there's just musicians everywhere.
Mhm.
In the '80s, they had a paper called the Recycler,
Mhm.
and every week it came out, and there'd be 3 or 4 pages of musicians seeking bands, and
Right.
then there'd be 2 or 3 pages bands seeking musicians,
Right.
and you just kept, you know. When I first got out there, I put ads. It was free, so
Right.
what do you have to lose? So I started putting ads out there. Rotten singer seeks rotten band, and that's how I got started.
I mean, when people ask me now, my messenger gets it bogged down with musicians looking for other musicians. Hey, I need a bass player. Hey, I need a drummer. Hey, go to a jam night.
Yeah.
I mean, go to a jam night, pick out somebody, or get up there and play with them. I mean, to me, that's the easiest way to do it. And then you find out in 5 minutes if you can actually deal with this person or he can deal with you or whatever. And, you know, you can pick out people and put a band together. And to me, those kind of last minute off the cuff, just pulling somebody out of nowhere and playing with them, they end up working out instead of planning and thinking and I want that guy or I want that girl. And then it ends up being a shit show, where, it's a diva thing, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, to me, it's like the no plan always seems to work out the best.
I was home for a year or two, and a good friend of mine, he's deceased now, but his name was B.J. Severs. He kept telling me, man, you got to go to Charlax. You got to go to Charlax. That's where all the cool guys in St. Louis, all the musicians hang out at. And it went in one ear and out the other for a while, and finally I said, okay, I'll go. And I went. He took me there, and that was my first, look at it. And I thought, well, you know what, this is pretty cool. Then I got up and jammed, and he introduced me to Alex, and Alex made sure my name was on the list and everything.
Right.
And I got up and sang some Motorhead and Priest and AC/DC and stuff, and then I would go back every so often, and I forget how many times I went back and played, but one of the times I was there, and I did some AC/DC, and you came up to me afterwards and said, I know a band looking for an AC/DC singer. And I think you gave me a phone number.
I may have. I don't
and
remember. But
I called them up and auditioned and got the gig.
How about that? And the rest is history. Yay! Well, I'm so glad you followed through. It's just like that. I mean, it's totally not planned, and it's like, wow, and then you called them and you got in. It wasn't all, just sometimes it just doesn't work like that. I mean, Jimmy Griffin has actually stopped in at Charlotte. Richard Fortas comes in there sometimes. I mean, all the best do come over there and play.
Chuck Berry's daughter comes once in a while.
Ingrid, yeah, when Ingrid gets a ride. Ingrid and I grew up together. She's a sweetheart. My daddy made him a guitar when we were kids. I didn't know who he was.
Right on.
I had no idea who Chuck Berry was. He brought his kid over, and me and Ingrid, we were buds, and we played in the yard. And my dad, because he made guitars for people, and he made him a guitar. They jammed in the basement like every other guy who came over there and played music with my dad. And I had no idea who he was until I saw him on TV on the Ed Sullivan Show. And my dad's like, yeah, I made that. Yeah, that was the same guy. My dad was so low-key. No airs about him at all. But he did say, I didn't really care for that guy. Later on, after he got caught when Chuck got in trouble. Yeah. Yeah, he was not. My dad was a pretty good judge of character, but he never said anything bad about anybody. He just kept it to himself, But still, he said the worst thing I've ever heard him say was, I didn't really care for that guy. Well, okay, Dad. Well, then, all right, I'll stay away from him. But no, Ingrid and I, she's just a sweetheart. She really is, And it's sad because I just put a video of Chuck out there back when he was in his heyday, and he was just, he was a great pioneer of. I mean, he flipped the world on its ear, just like the Beatles and Elvis and Cher.
He was their influences.
Yeah, he was. I mean, the stories about, he slept in his car when he was out there, going to all these venues and playing his music. And, I mean, and it was a tough time, because it didn't matter, you know, the older people were just like, oh my God, rock and roll was like the sin and the devil and all this bullshit. And I'm like, oh, shut up, you know.
Let me test your trivia here.
No.
What is the only single that Chuck Berry had that went to number one? The only song he got to...
My Ding-a-ling.
It is. That was his only number one hit.
I know, isn't that terrible? But it didn't matter what he played because everybody was always up, and it was, I mean, the floor was covered in people, and they were all rocking out. And it's just sad that, you know, that was the only one that was actually a hit, what they call a hit, because everything he played, everybody loved.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I think I saw one of his last performances, and it just broke my heart. It was at the Duck Room, and he had his Charles was playing drums, his son. Ingrid was there, and she was kind of navigating him up onto the stage. But he was just, everybody was so forgiving when he was up there trying to sing and trying to play, because he would forget and then just go back into the same chorus or the same verse or whatever. And then he'd look up and smile, and then he a couple times Ingrid caught him because he was going to try and do this duck walk, and you can't do that anymore, Chuck.
Yeah.
You know, he was so sweet though. But I mean, everybody was just so, you could hear the hearts breaking and the tears, just because I was like, oh no. But he still, you know, but he did it all the way to the grave, you know, which is awesome. Good for him. You know, and that's the way I want to go, with my boots on.
I always figured I would be in my 70s wearing a leather jacket, being a punk rocker in my 70s wearing a leather jacket.
Nothing wrong with that. They still, yeah.
And you know what? It ain't that far away.
No, it isn't. Can you believe it? I can't believe I've lived this long. Can you believe you've lived this long?
No. I've had a few freebies.
Oh, I know. We were invincible back in the day, and it was just, forget it. I mean, 10 feet tall and bulletproof no matter what. And it was just amazing that, you know, I can't believe I'm still alive. Oh, some stupid shit. You know, don't look in the pool first, see if there's water. Just jump.
Can you believe that KC's bringing back their heavy metal night?
They've tried. They've been doing it.
Monday Night Metal.
Yeah, they call it Metal Mondays. Learn does it, and it's all right. But I would like to see it better. They can do better, I think.
They played Nightmare 2 back in the 80s.
Well, there you
on
go.
their Monday Night Metal, and you know what? I got it on cassette.
That's awesome. They played a lot more. I like the fact that, you know, the original Casey, when they were playing all the deep cuts, you know, because when I got an album, I listened to it. I put my headphones on, sang my ass off in the house, didn't care who could hear me or not. My dad's like, do you know how loud you are with we can't hear the music. All we can hear is you screaming. I'm like, but you don't think about that because it's all the music's in your ears. And I mean, but when I got an album, I listened to every song and I learned. And if I love your album, it has the words in it, because sometimes you can't understand them, and it's like you just know the song better. You can read it better if you can see the words, which is cool. I learned the words to all the songs, and just, to me, that was just awesome. And not too many people put that much effort into it anymore.
Now, when you go on the internet and find out what the lyrics are, you find out what you've been singing all along has been the wrong words.
Yeah, thanks, Justin. Justin is so full of shit, but not anymore. Oh, no. Justin Kickett, he's the other owner. Him and Tweezy own the station. But yeah, he's funny. He'd probably own it even if I accused him of it. He probably would. He'd do a little dance about it. He'd go back in there and do it again, probably. No, he's funny. His daughter Jasmine has a kid's show. She's 10 years old. Her picture used to be up on the wall. Yeah, she's adorable. But she was doing a kid's show on Saturday. She's still doing her show? Is it on Saturday morning still? Fridays? Oh, yeah, she's a sweetheart. Those are little kids in here. But, yeah, Justin's a riot. And he just had another baby. The baby's a year old now. Old journey. That's so funny. How many kids do you have, Rod?
None that I know of.
Here we go. That's why he came back from California. That's what happened. He changed his name. He got rid of the rotten rod and went back to Dennis.
You know what? Facebook made me do that.
Why?
I had a Rotten Rod page. I only had one page, a Rotten Rod page. And Facebook, all of a sudden, they wanted people to use their real names. Mm-hmm. And so if you didn't have your real name, you couldn't have a page, right? So I did that. And then I started a Rotten Rod page. And because it used to be everything was under Rotten Rod, but now I have a Rotten Rod page. I have a Nightmare 2 page. Mm-hmm. I have a AZDZ page.
Very cool.
And a couple other pages. Like, you know what? I only had one before, but now I got to have a bunch of them to cover all the same ground.
Right. Well, they wanted, they don't want you to, screw up your name or whatever, and then the business pages. So you got the three. So you got the bands as a business page, which makes it easier.
I think they were having problems with maybe pedophiles or something, and they wanted to be able to find out who was who.
Well, they don't do anything about it. They don't do anything about the people who harass you or report stuff just because they're mad or because they're haters or whatever. There's still assholes out there who don't care about what you're doing, even if you're not bothering anybody, and they don't do anything about them at all. And I know this because I've had a couple. This one guy, he used to have a show here a long time ago, and this guy has got like 10, 15 pages, different names or variations of his name, and it's his picture and his girlfriend or both or whatever. I mean, and he attacks anybody who's in this. They run 30 shows out of this studio and the other two they have. And he attacks everybody and slams these two guys for some bullshit that, happened how many years ago? 3 or 4 years ago or some shit? I don't know. You know who I'm talking about. You know who I'm talking about. I can't. I'm not talking about the tall guy. I'm talking about the other one. That one, and he came after me, and I've been friends with him on Facebook for 10 years. And he always did his own show, and I was just out of respect. We were friends on Facebook. We talked a little bit. But then all of a sudden, he attacked me, my guest. I mean, he was a total jerk one night, and I was like, what is wrong with this guy? Found out he had like 15 pages. I blocked every single one of them. I had no idea. You know who we're talking about? JT, yes. And he still will go after people out of the clear blue sky.
Like a narcissist.
I mean, it's crazy, and just start talking about, stuff that happened and I don't care who your argument is with. Don't get me in the middle of it. That's between you and whoever you're arguing with. It's like people when they get divorced or they break up. There's his side, her side.
He picks a side. And
the third side, which is the truth, which is a combination of the two.
Yeah.
So, and it's like, holy crap. I just couldn't believe it. It really kind of hurt my heart that he just comes after people just because they're here in the studio because he's mad at whatever. But he seems to be doing all right. I wish I had the time he did to bother everybody. But, oh well, it is what it is. But you have your show. Tell us about your show.
You know what? You were talking earlier about hard to get airplay if you got an original act or whatever. Mm-hmm. I think the easiest thing to do, and it's not easy, is get your own radio show.
Right. Yep.
So.
Is that the only music you play is on yours?
You know what? No. but I do play a cut every night.
Well, that's good. You should.
I got turned on to a radio show in Carlisle on WDLJ. The host of the show is Randy Alderman, and he had a show back in the 80s called Rock Zone, and it was in Greenville, Illinois, on a station called WGEL. And they used to play Nightmare 2, and I used to call them up once in a while and report in and talk to them live from California.
Very cool.
And over the years, WGEL went country. But there was a rock station in Carlisle, WDLJ, and the head jock at the time remembered the Rock Zone and he got a hold of Randy and he said, hey, would you like to have an anniversary show? Just come here and do a show.
Oh, very cool.
And Randy was up for it, and I happened to be home from California on vacation. He got a hold of me and said, hey, we're going to do this. You want to be a part of it? So I went and did it, and lo and behold, it became a steady gig.
Very cool.
So after I moved back, I joined him, and it's a monthly gig. It's the first Friday of every month. It's called the Rock Zone Legends Show.
Right.
WDLJ 97.5 FM in Carlisle.
Carlisle. Give him a shout out.
Well, anyway, can you show this?
Yes. Show it. Go ahead. There's a camera right there, and you've got one right here in front of
I
you.
don't know where I'm looking at. Where am I looking at, Tweezy?
That one right there. Just
Does it
throw it
show?
up there. Yeah. So when you see Tweezy's version afterwards.
Okay.
Oh, that one. Okay. So you'll see, and what he does is he splits the screen up,
Okay.
so we have equal time on there. So it's a better version.
Right
I
on.
just stick my phone up there and let it run, but Facebook won't let me.
Well,
so very cool.
Randy Alderman from Greenville.
Mm-hmm.
He is the host, and I'm his helper. He's the sound engineer, and he runs the board and everything. But during the course of the evening, it's a 5-hour show.
Mm-hmm.
We usually talk to somebody established in the industry, some big names. We've had some big names on there. Rudy Zarzo, Carlos Cavazzo from Quiet Ride. The biggest name we've had so far to date was Don McLean. We got to talk to Don McLean.
American Pie. Oh my God.
But I have a bunch of sound effects for my radio show as
Right.
well. So I have this little box here, and then what you're doing, I can do too.
Yay! Well, we used to have all kinds of noise makers and
Yeah.
buttons and
Yeah.
crap on the table, but Justin took them to
Yeah.
the newer studio.
Yeah.
So all we're left with is the gavel, and I got a few sounds here. But
Whenever Randy plays a song I don't like, I give him this one.
well, let's see. I've got this is the one I have. Ah,
That's a good one.
this one's my favorite. Car skid. And yeah, then we got this one when no laughter. Just crickets.
Sounds like sleigh bells.
Crickets. Crickets. So what was your favorite gig that you did over all the gigs you've done? Were California, here, or somewhere in between?
You know
There's
what?
got to be one or two that just like it was a great gig.
The best gig I did in California was one night we got to open up for Blue Oyster Cult, playing the Key Club. And the Key Club used to be a club called Gazzari's, right there on the Strip, just right down the street from the Whiskey A Go-Go. And that was I think my favorite gig in California. The gigs out here, since I've been back, AZDZ has got to play the Family Arena twice.
Right.
We played the Chesterfield Amphitheater, and we played a few other. We got to open up for the Iron Maidens at Effingham Performance
Right.
Arts Center.
You don't know them, do you? They was camping out of your house. All the girls stayed at his house, believe it or not. So we got to give you one of these now. No, they were sweet. They were sweet. They were really nice. So anyway, and
But in the same token, out there and here both, we've played a lot of gigs that were not so, to unfilled rooms or small audiences or whatever. But that's part of the business.
right, you still play to each room like you have 1,000 million people in there, So, but it's all good. It's just practice then, right?
Yeah.
But do you notice the people in the smaller rooms? They stay all night. If it's just it amazes me that there are those fans out there that will stay all night long.
I haven't been to town for a while. This was my first time at Charlax last weekend when I showed up, And I basically came because Sam was in town.
Right.
And when I finally got to get up and jam, I got there late, so my name was last on the list, so I got to play later on in the evening. But after I played, a lot of people remembered who I was.
Mm-hmm.
And afterwards, I was approached by several people. Hey, I remember seeing you at the Family Arena, blah, 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 and stuff. And you know what? It was like a class reunion. And a lot of the musicians and stuff remembered me then.
It warms your heart, doesn't
Yeah.
it? It's so cool.
Yeah.
Because they still do, no matter what. I mean, I've said this a million times. Our music community is the bomb. I mean, we all stick together, no matter attitude or divaness or whatever, they still will come together. St. Louis, to me, has just the best music community as far as killer musicians. I've been all over the United States, and have not been to a city where they do venues and bands like we did before COVID, of course. I mean, all the venues are packed with bands. And it's not the same 5 musicians. There's so many musicians. Everybody was playing. Everybody was playing every weekend, you know, especially back in the 80s. It was always, every venue was packed, you know. I just thought, and to this day, everybody still has that mindset. And that's why I think a lot of them still just keep playing and playing and playing and playing.
When I got to California in '82,
Mm-hmm.
the metal scene was just starting to crack.
Mm-hmm.
And I hung out in Anaheim. There was a couple different clubs there. One of them was called the Woodstock.
Right.
And right next to it was a club called Radio City.
Right.
They were side by side
Yeah.
with a rehearsal studio in between them.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, in the early 80s, I started trying to get myself established out there, so I'd be hanging out at the clubs,
Mm-hmm.
meeting people and hanging out and watching the competition, watching the other bands. But at the Woodstock, I got to see bands like Metallica and Slayer
Before they were Metallica and Slayer.
before they were signed. Before they were signed to major labels, you know.
Right. Uh-huh.
And it was, you know, a couple years after that, they got signed and then they were gone.
Right.
But I played them venues, and those were mostly in the early 80s, and that was Nightmare 1. And at one of those gigs, we played the night before Great White. And Jack Russell was there, and he caught our show,
Mm-hmm.
and he came backstage afterwards and said, "Hey, I want to produce you guys." So we were kind of, yeah, that's way cool. So we set up some studio time
Mm-hmm.
and had everything set up, and he flaked on us. So we went ahead and did it anyway, and then that's when I had Joey Allen in the band.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a 5-song EP, and 3 of the songs he wrote with me, and we did them with him, and the other 2 were with the original guitar player from Nightmare 1. But the 3 that we did with Joey was recorded in North Hollywood at a recording studio called Present Time Recorders.
Yeah.
And the engineer was a small guy with slick back hair and wearing Beatle boots and having like a satin business jacket on, and he had the look, right?
Right. Right.
His name was Irvin Kramer.
Mm-hmm.
And Irvin turned down, he was a keyboard player, and he turned down the Toto gig. He could have had Toto, but he turned it down because Toto was nobody at the time. They were just, you know, another act.
But
you
their
know.
sound,
Oh, yeah,
holy
yeah,
shit,
yeah.
who wouldn't want to jump on that bandwagon?
Right.
Oh,
Well,
my God.
Irwin was twisting the knobs, and Joey had a buddy with him, and his buddy had real tight jeans on, and he had cowboy boots. The jeans were tucked into the cowboy boots way before Guns N' Roses.
Right.
This is way before. You know, this dude was ahead of his time.
Right. And Steve Hall, he does that.
All right. Well, okay. We cut the songs, and Irvin was spot on and had a perfect mix, perfect everything. And this buddy of Joey's, we were doing these 3 tunes. One of them's called Promised Land.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, well, dude, get up here and sing backup with us. So this guy jumped up. Danny Stagg.
Oh,
later
my
on became the
God.
guitar player for Kingdom Come.
Holy shit.
So Danny sings backup on my song Promised Land.
That is so awesome. Very cool. Isn't it amazing?
Irwin went on and joined the Knack.
Okay. I mean, I like the Knack, but I definitely would have went with Toto first. I mean,
Yeah.
no, nothing
Well,
against the Knack. I liked them,
He
but
joined the Knack when they were on their downside. He didn't join them when they were going up. And,
Oh, well, that's
at the
even
top.
better.
He-
I
he-
mean,
he joined them on the downside when
he,
they were.
he doesn't sound like a smart guy.
Well, he was a good engineer.
There you go. He probably should have stayed doing that. Oh
He was
my
a good
gosh, that
engineer.
is so awesome. So, who did you have you met anybody that you idolized, or anybody famous, or anybody that you got to hang out with? I mean, besides the ones you met before they became somebody. That is there somebody out there that you really wanted to meet? Who was your influence as far as you deciding you wanted to be a musician?
You know what? My main influence was Jim Dandy from Black Oak, Arkansas.
Really?
That was the first concert I ever saw. It was 1980. No, it was 1973
Right.
at the Springfield Armory.
Mm-hmm.
And Black Oak was headlining, and the opening acts was the Straubs and King Crimson.
King Crimson.
And then,
Holy shit.
And then Black Oak.
Wow.
And I was like a sophomore in high. But prior to that, years before that, I would, when I was a little kid, I used to get the 45 record player and sit on our front porch and play it. And it was pre-karaoke, but I was there by myself, and I'd be singing to these 45s, thinking that I was one day going to be, Elvis or whatever. But actually, what got me into music personally was when I come home out of the Army. I was in the Army out of high school. When I came home, there was a punk band in Hillsboro playing, and I went and seen these guys play this backyard party, this punk band in Hillsboro. And I thought, you know what? Anybody can play this stuff.
Right.
You do not have to have talent to play punk rock.
No, but you got to have a lot of patience.
And I was wrong. You do have to have talent. You do, but I mean, at the same time, but that's what got me in. And I thought, you know what? If they can do it, I can do it.
But it turned into a movement. It turned into a genre of music. It
So-
wasn't just, like you said,
Yeah.
kids making noise.
Yeah.
Because it did turn into something.
I was a late bloomer, and I started playing music when I was 22.
Yeah.
No, I take that back. When I was 20.
Mm-hmm.
When I was 20.
That's awesome.
And if I would have had to do I wanted to play drums when I was a kid, but my mom wouldn't let me.
Well, I think she'd let you know.
Yeah, she always regretted that.
Oh, you can still play them.
Yeah.
You're never too old to learn a new trick.
You know what? You got to have a lot of energy to play drums.
Well, it depends on how well you're going to play them.
Yeah.
I mean, Ginger Baker, amazing. He made it look effortless.
Well, you know what?
You don't have to get all hot and sweaty and get naked and jump up and down to play drums. I mean, it's a great show, of course. Don't get me wrong, but I mean, it's just. I guess
don't
it just
see
depends
too many
on.
old drummers.
We're all old drummers. Shut up.
I mean, you think, okay, Charlie Watts just died. He was 80 years old. You think, how in the hell can there a guy be 80 years old still be playing drums?
Because he made it look effortless.
Yeah.
I mean, he got so
He was
good
in the
at it
pocket,
that he just.
laid back and just was in the pocket, and he didn't know to be anywhere else. But he wasn't playing like Black Sabbath or anything heavy or hard.
He could, though, I'm sure. You know Mike the Wop, don't you? Mike the Wop, his name is Gilfone. He's the most Italian guy you'll ever meet. I mean, the yelling and talking with his hands and the whole bit. But, I mean, he's a badass drummer. And he's been back and forth between here. He went to Vegas. He was in California. He played on a couple of Bret Michaels, one of his albums or something, or in the studio. I can't remember the story. But anyway, he's one of these drummers that does make it look effortless. I have seen him literally asleep at Charlock playing drums and not miss a beat. He's that good. He's amazing. I did a benefit for it was a International Food Festival in St. Charles, and it was a 3-day event, and I had to have 3 different kinds of bands. I had a Latino band, I had a country band, I had a rock band. And then I had some roving musicians playing in the crowd. They were just walking around playing. I had a saxophone player, I had a singer. Teddy McCready brought his guitar out there, and he walked around and sang. But anyway, so I got this idea to have a trash can drummer, and I went and I brought a bunch of trash cans, some pots and pans, and some all kinds of stuff from my kitchen. And I told Mike the Wop, I said, just bring your cymbals and a couple sticks. He put together a drum set out of all that and played a 30-minute solo in the friggin' heat in July. If you shut your eyes, you couldn't tell he was not playing on a real set of drums.
It's like those guys.
He's that freaking talented.
It's like those guys after the Cardinals games.
Yeah. Oh, the ones out on the corner? Oh, my God. I know. It's like, I mean, they just play and play and play. They're freaking amazing.
It was like 1984 when I first met Joey Allen from Warrant. Okay, his name's Joe Cagle. His middle name's Allen. All right. We were at a rehearsal studio in Costa Mesa. me and him jamming, and some other guys. We had a drummer named Greg Fisk that was an excellent drummer. But while we were jamming, a black guy shows up with a beret carrying a guitar case. And he opens up the guitar case, breaks out his guitar, plugs it in, and starts wailing some ungodly leads. And this black guy was Lloyd Grant, and he was from Jamaica. Talked with a thick Jamaican accent, but he wasn't much into reggae. He was into heavy metal. And this guy was a shredder. Later on, Lloyd played the leads on Metallica's very first recording.
Wow, that's amazing.
Before they were Metallica, or they were Metallica, but before they were Metallica,
Right.
Brian Slagle from Metal Blade Records put out his first compilation record. It was Metal Blade 1 or something, Metal Massacre 1. A bunch of different bands, Armored Saint, a bunch of different bands. Metallica, Lars was good friends with Brian Slagle, so he got to be on the. They didn't have a lead guitar player at the time. James Hetfield wasn't playing, so they knew Lloyd.
Right.
Knew Lloyd's ability. They took a little 4-track reel to Lloyd's house, got him to lay down the lead tracks, and he did, nailed it. So it came out on the first album. First 1,000 pressings is Lloyd Grant on guitar. They wanted to relocate to San Francisco. And Lloyd had the opportunity to be in that band, and he turned it down because he didn't want to relocate to San Francisco.
What?
So they got Dave Mustaine. Okay.
Nothing wrong with that, but what?
So
Wow.
after Lloyd turned that gig down, they moved, and the rest is history. But Lloyd is still really good friends with them people. And I met Lloyd that night at that day at the rehearsal studio, and I became friends with Lloyd. And they told me a story, Joy told me a story, that Lars was living down in Laguna Beach, and Joy was trying to put together a band, and Lars auditioned, and Lars did not make the cut. So where I'm going with this is, over the years, Lloyd and me have been good friends, still good friends, and in 1996, myself and the Warheads cut a demo, a four-song demo, and at the time we had a lead guitar player. But I said, Lloyd, why don't you come in and throw some tracks down on one of the songs, because I wanted him on something.
Right.
So he came down and threw some tracks down on one of the songs, and later on, we played a couple gigs, and one of them was at a millionaire's mansion up on top of the hill in Anaheim Hills, overlooking, actually it was Newport, overlooking the ocean.
It wasn't Hef's, was it?
No, but Lloyd went along, and he sat in with us, so he's also sat in with us and played this song. Well, long story short is, a few years ago, that demo got released on a couple different compilation projects, and I had a video shot of one of the songs that made local cable television in California. But I decided, okay, you know what? I'm going to press that 4-song demo into a 7-inch EP.
Right.
And release it on my own label. And I did this a few years ago. And this is the finished product. And I brought this one here. This is yours. But anyway, Lloyd is on one
very
of the songs.
cool.
And then when you open this up, it's got the sleeve, and it's got a picture of Lloyd and everybody else that's in it. But it's that's a 7-inch 4-song EP. It's on my own label, Raucous Records, and those are on eBay.
Very cool.
And you can still get those for $5.
That's awesome. Thank you. That is so cool.
And let me do a plug here.
Okay.
Those records and the Nightmare 2 records and the CDs and all this stuff, you can get them in Collinsville at Rich's Emporium in Collinsville. Or if you're in Springfield, there's a record store in Springfield, Illinois called Dumb Records. You can get them there.
You know, you need to bring some more and take him to Joe's record shop.
I would like to.
Joe Smith, you know, the lead singer for Throw the Horns.
Uh-uh.
You don't know Joe? Oh, he's amazing. Well, you know the band Throw the Horns. You've heard of him. Yeah, he's amazing. So he has a record shop he opened up. It's in South County. And then Walter Ray from CD Warehouse. He's over there off of Tesson Ferry. Now, he's been around for a minute. He used to have 5 stores. He's down to 1. and they both have a section just for original artists,
Yeah.
which is cool. So
Yeah.
take them in there and do it.
Well,
I
if you
mean,
go on eBay and put in Rotten Rod, or Rotten Rod and the Warheads, or Nightmare 2, all these records and stuff, they come up.
that's very cool. You got all kinds of cool stuff. What time is it? It's 8:17. Let's play. Oh wait. So before we play, we played 2 of your songs. So tell me about what was behind each one of them. Was there a story behind it? Because every song has a story.
Sure. Which one you got?
So what was the first one I played?
Germs?
Germs.
Germs was.
Germs. This is before COVID and the germs.
You know what? Germs was inspired by the Scrubbing Bubbles commercial.
Oh, I love that
And,
commercial.
right now, they could use germs for all kinds of stuff with
Right.
the COVID stuff.
Right,
And if
definitely.
you go on YouTube and type in Rotten Rod and the Warheads, check out the Germs video. Because we shot 4 different videos that were like poor man quality MTV stuff.
It doesn't matter. Everybody loves those.
And they got played. They were shot at a TV studio in Marina Del Rey. And we threw in a bunch of effects and a bunch of cool stuff.
Did you have hot girls in there?
You know what? Just the bass player.
But how cheesy was it? It was so cheesy that.
You know what? They're all good.
Yeah, I know.
Anyway, that song could have been used right now. They could be using it right now.
And re-release it.
I just needs to be discovered by the right person.
That's right.
You know, I've met a few people that do that. They sell songs to different companies and different. They have their own publishing companies, and I forget who I was talking to, but I was wanting to get it in my catalog because that's how stuff happens.
I know, but back in the day when people were getting discovered, it was they were playing music.
Yeah.
There wasn't tracks and all the electrical shit that you can get your hands on now. They literally blood, sweat, and tears playing music.
Yeah.
And it was like, it was every day there was new artists coming out, and which was freaking awesome. And now it's everybody's there's so much money they're not making from social media and from Spotify and all these other ones. Now, not a slam against them because the music's out there, but it's not like it was before. Now you can just phone it in and they're doing everything electronically, which kind of is a little disheartening, because it kind of takes away from the whole glory of the blood, sweat, and tears that you're putting into your music.
Okay, back in the day of the Germ song,
Right.
I invented a dance called the Germ dance. The Germ. And I would do that.
Go ahead. You can do it if you want.
You can see it on a YouTube video. I do it in the guitar break there, but the crowd that had been to the shows previously, they knew what was coming up,
Right.
and the whole audience would be doing the Germ.
How cool is that?
It was real cool.
When they're singing your songs back to you, your songs that you wrote and put together, that to me is the best high ever. That's just totally makes it whole worth it when you got people singing your songs back to you.
That was 1988 in that time frame, and at that time, 1998, and at that time frame, we were playing a lot, and we were playing the Strip a lot. We were playing the Whiskey, the Roxy, and the Coconut Teaser, the Hollywood Boulevard, Sunset Boulevard. We were
Right.
playing the Strip a lot, and there was a magazine there, a weekly newspaper that was like the hottest rag in town,
Right.
called Rock City News. And they started putting out compilation albums, compilation CDs, and we were on several of them. And this is what they look like.
Very cool.
And also, this paper, My Band or Me, made the cover 3 times.
Oh,
And
very
and
awesome.
here's one of them.
That is so awesome. Wow. Check it out. That is so cool. Isn't that neat? Look at that. You've got all kinds of cool stuff. I'm sure you've got a lot of this stuff framed at your house, don't you?
You know what? I have an office, and it's packed, and I got stuff in boxes and stuff because I don't have enough room.
That's great.
I kept everything.
Well, of course, you got to. Because it's just, that's your whole life, that's your heritage, that's, what you've been doing. And I'm sure that when you look at all these pictures, you remember what was going on that night. May not remember everything, but just the fact that there's a memory on that one, there's a memory on that one, which is so cool. And how many people have you touched with your music and your lyrics and just your whole show and just, you've shared your art with everybody all these years, which is bad. And people still remember. That is, to me, is the greatest compliment. Beavis and Butthead or not. It's the greatest compliment. Think about it.
How stuff, eBay is an example. If you go on eBay and type in either Rotten Rod or Nightmare 2, there's stuff for sale on there that I'm selling, but there's stuff on sale there from all over the world.
Right.
You'll see these records and CDs, and they'll be in South America. They're in Europe. They're in Australia. They're people are, they go through everybody's hands and estates and blah blah blah. But
Are you getting royalties from those?
no,
Why not?
because they've already.
You
been
know they're
sold.
all bootlegged.
No, these are the real deals.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think so.
I hope so. Because I remember that there was a band who came through, it was a few years ago, and I promoted one of their shows, and they had like 4 cases of their newest CD and gave me a case just to give out. And I did, and I had one, and I took it home with me, and when I put it in my CD player, what was written on the label came up in some foreign language. And then when I tried to download it, it wouldn't let me download it. I could listen to it right then and there, but it would, because it was bootlegged. They had it, yeah. So I don't know what happened with all that, but still, I mean, they were still making their money, which was okay. But still, it's just like, I hate the fact that people will rip off musicians and bootleg everything and try to make a buck off of it. It just sucks. But other than that, you're very well loved, and this is so cool. You got all this really cool stuff. Great pictures from all your shows. So all your stuff you can fill in. Oh, here we go.
Read the backs of them.
This is cute. You've got Happy Holidays, Wanda.
Those are Christmas cards from the Iron Maidens.
Very cool. I have pictures. I'm going to use them as my Christmas card. I took pictures when they were at Diamond, and they were fun. They were a blast. But so when they came in town, they spent the night with you.
Yeah.
Because Wanda's.
Well, you know what? They were in between gigs.
Right.
When they were in town, they spent the night, I'm sure, at one of the hotels close to the airport.
Right.
But they spent the night at my house. They were coming from, I believe, Indianapolis, and then they were going to St. Louis. But I live an hour out of town, so that's at the Whiskey.
The Whiskey, here we go. So here's an article from 5th Annual Rotten Ween Draws Crowd in Hillsboro. The Rotten Ween, if you don't know what it is a badass Halloween party that memories are made of, right?
Yeah.
So how many years have you done the Rotten Ween?
You know what? I did it the first 5 years I was back, and then
There's one from last year.
then I took a break, and last year was the first one I had in like 4 years, and I thought, you know what? Because it takes me 6 weeks to prep for this party. This is a huge blowout.
So you guys play. Do you have other bands playing, or is it
Yeah.
just you guys? Okay,
There's usually
so
3 bands,
Mhm.
and the last couple times I did it, I built a massive stage. I have a giant outside building, like a Morton building, and I totally take everything out of it. So it's empty except for the stage and the lights and the sound system.
Right.
And I have huge bonfires in front and in back.
Oh, very cool.
And usually I'm averaging like a few hundred people now.
Definitely. You can make some money on that. Let them pitch a tent. Charge them.
I did when Black Oak, Arkansas played because I had to pay the band.
Oh, yeah.
But any other time, I don't charge them.
Right.
It just, you know what, it's a good time, and I've been very fortunate that there's been no problems.
Mm-hmm. Very cool. That's awesome. That is so awesome. But, yeah, you've got a lot of memories here. So you're going to do a Rotten Ween this year or next year?
2022.
Yay. Riff Raff. So, what band besides AZDZ are you still doing Riff Raff or not?
Riff Raff folded, but I got the guys back together again, and we're going to do the Rat Rods.
Oh, okay, cool.
Play car shows and bike shows.
Right.
Hopefully at Grafton and other just local car shows.
Right. Yeah, the Rat Run is a really cool show. They had it at the Hog Pit this year.
Yeah.
And you should get a hold of what's his name? Who runs that? It's I can't think what
I
it
went
is.
to a cool car show here on the Chain of Rocks Bridge. It was pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they but yeah, the Rat Rods are just really cool. I mean, I couldn't imagine riding around one of those because they're too low to the ground, but they're cool looking. I mean, they have to ride like a log wagon because you are sitting right on the freaking ground.
Yeah.
You know, I couldn't stand that. That would drive me crazy. But it's all good. Everybody has their druthers. So, who?
That's Jim Dandy.
Very cool. So, you have no children that you know of. That's why you ran away from California. Changed your name.
Yeah.
So, where did Rotten Rod come from?
You know what?
Is that your alter ego?
I ripped that off of Johnny Rotten.
You did not. Did you really?
Yeah.
So what? I mean, what was your persona, or what was it? Just that was a cool name to you, and it was just gonna be your thing.
I was just ornery.
Right.
Just always
But people remember you,
Yeah.
and they picked it up, and that's what they know you as.
Yep.
You know, so they don't know you as this nice little guy who just sits at home and.
Well, if they know me, they know better.
So when you play again, do you have a date yet, or is it gonna be next year?
You know what?
You're not even playing New Year's this year.
We're trying to get something set up in January. Those guys got a break in their itinerary, so we're going to try to do something in January. And I was at 21 Rock. Is that the name of the club in Arnold?
Yes.
Okay, I was there a week or two ago and caught
Randy Jackson.
the three trimmers or whatever, the tree trimmers or three trimmers.
A what?
The three trimmers.
I've never heard of the tree trimmers.
Well, you know what? What's his name? They used to play with Judas Priest. Now he's with Glenn Tipton's band. Gosh darn it, I can't think of his name, but he was one of the singers. They were from California.
Mm-hmm.
Scotty's band was opening up for him, and Samantha from Black Oak was the very first act, and Scotty's band was backing her up.
Very cool.
So, Ripper Owens.
Oh,
know,
okay.
Ripper
All right.
Owens was the headliner, but anyway, he's in a band called the Three Trimmers.
Okay.
And there's a story behind that somehow. But I talked to
can
Phil
only
Callis
imagine.
that night. It was one of his gigs. And anyway,
Yeah.
he's going to book AZDZ coming up here in the future. And probably the 21.
21 Rock.
Yeah.
Yeah, Randy Jackson was there, who's a really good friend of mine. He's just a sweetheart of a guy. The shows he's done here when he's done the solo gig, he hangs out, he signs whatever you want signed, sells T-shirts, and he talks to everybody. He's a sweet guy. I was there, and I had to leave right after because I missed a birthday party, but I had another gig to get to, which was like an hour away, and I mean, we took a picture, and then he sent me a message. He sent me a text message. Hey, thanks for coming out. Who does that? I mean, he's just a nice guy. No diva thing. Did you see them when Zebra was at Wildly a few years ago?
No.
Randy and his band, the Zebra, three guys.
Sure.
Still together,
I got
45 years
I
later.
got their album.
Oh, my God. So they played the Wildly, and Al Canal's like, I got to sell this out. I said, I got you. So we sold out the Wildly, and I even sold more tickets that were there. They were standing room only because every guitar player in town loves Randy Jackson.
Yeah.
Anybody who knows anything about.
Yeah.
And so they did their show, and it was badass, outstanding. I mean, these three guys, wow.
Was it the originals?
Yes,
Wow.
still together. And then after that show, they went next door, and Felix and what's his name? Well, I can't think of his name. The two of them left, and Randy did a 2-hour solo acoustic at Laurie's place, sitting on a stool, playing a guitar. His voice didn't falter at all. And he's got a voice. He's got a range that, like, holy shit. And then after that 2-hour gig, he's still Mr. Nice Guy and just, shaking hands and being really sweet. I was like, wow.
I remember those guys came out. It was probably like 1982 or 83, 84, whatever. But, man, they were good.
Yeah, they're from New Orleans, all three of them. And but Randy, I don't know where the other two are at, but Randy has a place in New York and in Florida. And when I met him, I mean, he's just that guy. You're just an instant friend to him, and trying to get, hopefully we can get Zebra here because they want to come back. What's really sad is that, over the years with Casey, they've played all these rock and roll forever and a day, sometimes overdoing it on some bands when, some of the ones that were underrated, April Wine, Rainbow, Zebra's one of them.
UFO.
UFO. I mean, the sad thing is that Randy told me when they played the Wiley, he said they had not played St. Louis in 14 years. That fucking blows.
Yeah.
That just sucks.
Yeah.
Why did nobody ask them to come back? Or why did they not book a gig 14 years later? Wow, I was embarrassed. I was like, holy shit. Because they're just freaking badass. But you don't think about it, you know, as far as how many years have you been here? Because if you listen to their music all the time.
They need a better booking agent.
Oh, man. That was really sad.
Yeah.
Really kind of broke my heart. And the guy who booked them, his name is Don. He lives in Texas. Because he reached out to me when they were coming up here.
You know, worst case scenario, they should be playing some of these KC anniversary parties.
I don't even know if are they doing those anymore?
Yeah. Every year they have one.
Well, I know they've been tying them in with...
This year was Alice, remember?
Right, Alice. He's a sweetheart. You know, I'm a stagehand, so I've worked with all these guys. I love that guy.
Yeah.
And he's one of those stand-up guys. He loves his wife, his family, and he's a great musician, and he's a super cool, sweet guy.
Well, his chick guitar player was from the Iron Maidens.
Yes.
Nita
Yes.
Strauss.
Yes. Awesome. She's badass.
She played my going away party at the Rainbow.
Oh. That's cool.
Now, doesn't remember me either.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
She says, sure I did.
Oh, I got pictures to prove it.
Well, I believe you. I believe you. Before pictures were common knowledge, before Facebook, thank God Facebook was not around when we were doing stupid shit because, I don't even want that evidence out there. You know, but I don't regret anything I did because I didn't do anything, you know, to hurt anybody or just, you know, we're just all having fun and doing our own thing. But, I mean, I'm glad that evidence is not around. That's all I'm going to say. What do you think?
Yeah. We got enough evidence already.
But I mean, we weren't so stressed out then. I mean, we weren't worried about who's calling and the cell phone mess. This thing turned on so much stress. I mean, it's a great tool and the internet's a great tool, but it overtakes us sometimes, you know. I remember back in the day when I knew 89 phone numbers in my head, like I know song lyrics from when I was a kid. Still, I remember the song lyrics. Do I remember a phone number? I remember mine when I was a kid, but that's it. I can't remember a phone number now for shit. And, you know, we checked our answering machine, who called, or we knew what was going on. And our screening was we looked to see whose name was on there. Do we want to talk to them or not? We didn't send them to voicemail. We just didn't answer the phone.
Do you remember when answering machines took cassettes?
Yes.
I have a box this big full of cassettes full of old messages.
Oh, man. I bet you got some good ones on there.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. What are your favorites? The Mean Girlfriends or...
They're all on there.
Any death threats?
Not that I know of.
No. Just called a motherfucker how many times? Yeah. Well, you know, it happens like that.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've had your share of tantrums.
But there's also people on there that are no longer with us. So
Right.
that's pretty cool.
Yes. I know. That's really sad. I have one of those messages, too, from someone who passed away, and it's like, oh, my God. And it just makes me cry when I hear them, you know, or... My dad died over 20 years ago, and I'll never get over it. But I mean, my brothers found a marketing video. He retired from GM, and he was the guy who made the robotics, and he did a marketing video, or they made him do one back in the day, and I mean, and when my brother remastered it and put it out on Facebook, I lost my breath. I was just like. There he is. He's alive again. It was 1983, 84. And it just amazes me to see him moving and talking and doing what he did. You know, it's just so cool, you know. But he's immortalized on that little 3-minute video. But, yeah, GM was... This was when GM was... they got in bed with Toyota. And my daddy was so mad. He's like... He was a union man from day one, you know. In the 60s, he went to work at GM. He worked on the Corvette line. So every Corvette that came off that line, his hands was in every one of those engines up until they moved the plant to Bowling Green. Yeah. From 1960 is when he started, you know, and his favorite song was Johnny Cash's One Piece at a Time. He played it all the time, and then it was always a running joke because I used to build model cars with him. Yeah. Dad, we could do that Corvette thing. And it was always a joke. And when I was 16 and a half, my best friend, her dad had a Corvette, a Stingray. You want to drive it? Sure. I got in that damn thing. It was like riding a log wagon. I said, I was so disappointed. It's supposed to ride as good as it looks. They were the worst. The worst, but yeah, it was just, those
I
memories.
had a 64 coupe. I wonder if your dad worked on it.
He probably did. Yeah, everything from 1960 till the plant moved to Bowling Green. And I want to say I was a senior in high school because a girl I went to school with, her family moved to Bowling Green, and that was when they split the plant up. And
Probably
the Corvette,
95 or something like that, because I went to the grand opening to the
Did you?
Corvette Museum. And it's in Bowling Green, right next to the factory.
yeah, they were, but I don't remember when. I just remember in high school they were
Probably
moving people out there.
The 95 was the museum, so it was probably, God only knows.
I don't know. It was 80 when I graduated because I remember because my dad had a choice to move to Bowling Green. So I don't know when they actually got the stuff started and running, but he did not want to go to Bowling Green. He didn't. But yeah,
He didn't make the move.
he did not want to go to Bowling Green. He didn't want to leave his poker buddies and what he had going on there, and it was just, his whole life was building cars at GM. So that was fun. But yeah, he taught us all how to work on cars. He said, no kid of mine is ever not going to know how to change a tire. So when I got my first car, it was, you're going to learn to change a tire. I said, no, let's show me the engine. Flip the hood up. And that was when you could work on. You could literally
Yeah.
get in the engine. You could
Yeah.
take the carburetor out. You can clean it. I mean, all that gearhead stuff
Yeah.
back in the day. What car did you have in high school? What was your first car?
You know what? I had a Maverick.
Did you
Ford
really?
Maverick.
Those were cute cars. Our neighbor across the street had one. It was blue, navy blue. I had a 69 Cougar. It was my mom's hand-me-down. I had a 351 Windsor in it, and I used to race. We used to drag race. And these boys in their Mustangs with their 289s, I'm like, do you not know the difference between these two vehicles?
Yeah.
And I remember some smart ass telling me, let's race for pinks. I said, I don't want that stupid car, but I'll still race your ass and show you what it's like to get beat by a girl in a Cougar. That was when the lights went ding, 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 ding. Their tail lights went,
Yeah.
And now, and the Mustangs, the newer Mustangs, they took that, and that's how their lights are. But I said,
How bad you beat him?
it was pretty shameful. He's still sitting there crying. I left his ass.
Well, he's
No.
lucky he didn't lose his car.
Oh my God, I didn't want it. I was not taking anybody. It was just the fun. It was just, being a girl beating a boy. I mean, it was all about competition back then, because it just was, stupid boys. We can do it.
Yeah. You ever go to Gateway to the drags?
Yeah.
John Force's daughters get out there and kick ass.
I know. Gateway's fun. I remember when I was a kid, I loved Shirley Muldowney. I used to buy model cars and build her dragsters, and then Connie Coletta. Back in the day when race car drivers were race car drivers, and Dale Earnhardt, huge fan of Dale Senior. Wow. And same with football. I'm a football freak. Rosie Greer, Larry Zonka, Roger Staubach, Dick Butkus. Oh, who didn't love Dick? I mean, these guys played football. They, with broken legs and arms, they just got them shot up on the sidelines and kept playing in the rain and the snow. That was when football was football. There wasn't agents and handlers and, all this stupid shit now where they, get a hangnail and they start crying. No.
Kneeling.
You need to get out there and play with a broken nose. Run people over and just, that was when it was. But of course, there was a lot of injuries, that didn't make it afterwards. But, oh well.
So what happened to your music career?
What music career?
Thought you was a singer.
Oh, that's how it started. But, after that, it was just, I wasn't, I liked promoting it more and just going to so many different venues. And jumping in a band and doing all that, I wasn't about that, because I just would rather promote it, because I wanted everybody to hear everybody. And I like the fact of, paying it forward to get everybody else out there. I just didn't want to deal with all that stuff.
Did you ever manage a band?
Oh, yeah. A few of them. a few of them. We'll talk about that off camera. But no, yeah, I did managing. I was an agent. I booked a shit ton of bands. But that was when bands were making money and agents were making money. Now I book bands. I don't charge anybody for anything. But I'm not booking solid like I used to because number one, the venues aren't there, the bands aren't there, the money's not there, and I don't have the time to do all the stuff that you have to do when you're a booking agent.
Yeah.
And people don't realize it's not just about running your mouth. It's about everything. But yeah, nowadays it's just, the bands are just not making the money they used to, especially coming back from COVID, and they're taking the cuts just to play. It's really sad.
On our show, we have a friend of mine out in Hollywood, Dee Dee Keel.
Mm-hmm.
She used to book the whiskey back in the 80s.
Man, I bet she's got some badass stories.
Oh, she does.
Yes.
Plus she married Ron Keel. I don't know if you're familiar with Ron Keel.
Yes.
She was married to him for a while, but she's our Hollywood reporter. She's our head of Hopper.
Very cool.
And she's just been on the show for 6 months or whatever, but you and her would have fun together.
I'll need to interview her, man. That would be freaking awesome. Oh, so getting back what we were talking about, Squirrel. I know I'm bad about that. So the second song we played was Eyes.
Eyes in the back of my head.
Yeah. So what's that about? Was that about a girlfriend that you had to pay attention, an ex-girlfriend, or what was it?
You know what? That song is actually just cool lyrics. It's not really about. I'm not sure. We'd have to listen to it and I'd have to dissect it again. But that was recorded in 2003, and those sessions back in that time frame were either released on compilation projects or they did not get released.
Right.
And I have an album's worth of material right now compiled of those songs that were on compilation projects or did not get released. And I have an album's worth of material right now, and I'm shopping it around, trying to get somebody interested in it. And the labels that are putting out my stuff, the heavy stuff, it's not heavy enough for them. And you know what? I'll be honest with you, I don't hear no difference. But they do, supposedly.
Well, I mean, everybody's got their druthers, so at least they didn't say it sucked. They could have said, this is the worst thing I've ever heard. They
Can
just
we
said it's
play
not
one
heavy.
now?
Which one do you want to play?
I want to play Baby Acid. I want you to tell me what you think of that.
Baby Acid. Okay, so what's the story behind it? And
You
why
know
would
what?
you name it Baby Acid?
Baby acid is an imaginary drug, and this was me.
Were you on an imaginary drug?
No, this is
It's
me
okay.
with my Marilyn Manson influence. So you tell me what you think of this.
Okay, and here we go. Episode 89. Rotten Rod in the house, and we're going to listen to one of his songs. And this is a Warhead song, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I guess it doesn't matter. You're going to play them all your bands,
Actually,
right?
this
Or
was
was it
after the Warheads. This is just Rotten Rod.
Just Rotten Rod, okay.
about this world a bit. Been knotted and seamed and now by it. Been wined and dined and tailored a fit. A king when fate was kind. Like breakers real from a rim of waste. Like robbed the devil with an angel's face. Like picked up dust in grim disgrace. But never, never won. No, never. No, no. No, no. Never, never, never. I sometimes grow to wonder why into this sphere of you and I. The skies and clouds that high are never civilized. When darkness comes into the end, into the earth, this shall I send. Yeah, praise me still, ungrateful friend. But never have it wide. No, never. No, no. No, no. Never, never, I knocked about this world a bit. Been knotted and seamed and narrowed by it. Been wined and dined and tailored a fit. A king when fate was kind. Like breakers will from a rim of waste. Like robbed the devil with an angel's face. Like picked up dust in grim disgrace. But never have I won. No, never. No, no. No, no. Never, never, never.
So what memories do you, I mean, what were you thinking as far as where were you when you were singing or doing both these songs? You're in two different places.
You know
I
what?
mean,
To be honest with you, the 11th commandment,
mm-hmm.
my day gig out there was working at a naval base.
Mm-hmm.
And I was working with a naval reservist,
Mm-hmm.
and he come up and he said, "Dude, I got these killer lyrics I wrote. check this out. And that was them.
That's awesome.
And I read them. I said, man, you mind if I use these? He said, no, I'd be honored.
Very cool. Oh man, both those songs were great. I mean, and you've got a great sound. I mean, you obviously picked some really good musicians to play with, so that's awesome. Wow.
That was the last stuff I've ever recorded.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? After that was in 2004.
Mm-hmm.
So I started my music in 1978.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? I think that's the best I've ever sounded. And that just goes to show that you evolve. It's like a metamorphosis. And if you keep doing it, you can't help but get better unless something happens where you lose your voice or other stuff. But I mean, if you just keep, and I've seen a million bands that were brand new,
Mm-hmm.
and they sucked hard.
Yep.
And you know what? They kept playing.
Mm-hmm.
And a year later, God damn it, they had it down.
Yep.
They were doing it. A year later, they were nailing it. So it's just, you just got to keep going.
And then we've seen the opposite, which
Yeah.
really bad. I mean,
Sure.
I've worked shows and I was so excited to see this band that I loved when I was a kid, and then they get out there and I'm like, go sit down.
Well, they got lazy. Either that,
Oh,
or you know what,
it's just-
their heart just wasn't into it. It became work instead of fun. It became work, and they just weren't into it anymore.
Right. I know that. I hate to see that. I hate to see
It
that.
becomes
that-
mediocre, you know, instead of.
Right.
And can you imagine the acts that have the hits and they're forced to play, and that's why they mix it up sometimes, and sometimes they don't play that song you want to hear them play. Feel Cheap Trick, for instance. How many songs does Cheap Trick have, and how many hits do they have?
They still play them.
But you know what? Not every night.
No.
You know, you're not, if you follow them every night, you're not going to hear the Flame every night, because they just can't do it, or you know they've played it so much they're sick of it.
They're so real. I've done so
Yeah.
many of their shows.
Yeah.
I mean, they're at the amphitheater every year, and I mean, I see the regular guys. I mean, we see all the regular people before they put the rock star image on and
Yeah.
jump out on that stage. So I've seen the four guys come in carrying their jackets or whatever, and you know, just regular people, and they're really nice, and they're tired just like we would be tired if we were on a bus for you know 3
Sure.
days or whatever. And then, but they do it. They put it all on. They go out there and do their show, and then they come off and they're like, "Yeah, I'm tired." You know, but it's just like they're still real people.
I
you know?
don't think there's ever been a bad Cheap Trick show.
No, and they're just fun, and they're
Yeah.
really sweet people, really good guys. Yeah, they're a lot of fun,
Consummate
definitely.
pros.
They are constant pros. Alice is another one.
Yes.
But I can't stand to see the ones who are just dicks to everybody. I'm like, dude, if it weren't for us, you wouldn't even be here. The ones who forget where they came from.
Yeah.
That's neither here nor there. But it doesn't discourage people because they're still out there pumping out the hits, you know, and you know trying to make the music. But it's just, I think everybody does go through that transition. But you're not done playing, because now that you're grown up, not saying you're mature, but now that you're grown up, because you can't have a musician that's mature. There's no such a thing.
I was just out in California a month or so ago. I went out there for one of the clubs I used to play at was called Jezebel's.
Yeah.
And they had a Jezebel's reunion. And Jezebel's is a parking lot now, but they had it at a different club.
Right.
And everybody and their dog, Metallica, Megadeth, Metal Church, Armor Saint, they've all played Jezebel's. Well, I went out there for 6 days, and while I was out there, I visited my buddy Joey from Warrant, and I
Right.
went over to his house, and he made dinner.
Right.
Okay, and then and we were talking, you know, and anytime that his stuff is re-released or whatever, I make sure he gets copies of it.
Right.
And I told him, I said, you know what? Before this is all over with, I would like to cut another song. Let's write another song, and he's all for it.
Right. Great. That's
So.
awesome.
Maybe before it's over with, me and him can get back in the studio, and also the track you just heard, the two tracks, Eyes in the Back of My Head, and also the 11th Commandment. My guitar player Derek Feeney, he is a Canadian, and he's back out in Toronto, or what's the Canadian city right above Washington D.C.? Not in Washington, he's in
Ontario?
Washington. No, on the West Coast. Darn it, right above Washington.
I don't know.
Well, anyway, that's where he lives at, and I'm gonna go out there and because
Quebec? Is it Quebec?
no,
Oh, it doesn't matter.
darn it. Anyway, but there's a few songs that the Warheads never did record, and he wants to record them. He's got a band out there called the 12 Steps of Hate or something or other.
Sounds awesome.
Yeah, but anyway, his band's gonna back me up, and we're gonna cut those songs. So.
Well, if you're looking for a studio, there's a guy named Steve Schindler who's got a badass studio in St. Peter's. I mean, it is pristine. It's awesome. He was talking about doing a show out of his studio, similar to Daryl's place. Have you ever seen that show? Daryl Hall from Hall & Oates.
Really?
It's a really cool show. It's on, what is it, USA Country, or was it USA? Or is it on the History Channel? I can't remember. Daryl's Place, just look it up. It's on one of the cable channels. But basically, he just has musicians come in and they just jam. And then they talk. Like CeeLo Green was in there. That was my favorite show. What's his song? Fuck You, about the ex-girlfriend or whatever. It's freaking hilarious. You got to see that one. But he has all these different musicians come in and they just jam. They just jam all night. But it's just real laid back and it's more music than it is talking shit. And it's a really cool show. So Steve and I talked about it. I said, yeah, we could do it kind of like that. We're just more playing than talking. But yeah, he's got 2 drum sets, one electric, one not. And he's a bass player, so he's got all kinds of basses. He's got every instrument you need, but it's a killer studio to mix sound. And he likes to do it where each musician plays. You got a bass player, the guitar player, everybody playing separate, and then mix it up. And that way you can get,
Old school.
Where you can hear each instrument. Because, and everybody has their druthers, though. When the whole band is playing in the studio, you don't really sometimes get every sound you want out of all your instruments.
If stuff's bleeding over.
Because of the balance.
I just took a killer road trip a couple of weeks ago, and I went to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in Cleveland.
Oh.
I was going to go to Motown in Detroit, but it's closed. It's closed till 2022.
What?
And I'm a little upset because they say it's closed, but yet they let the Rolling Stones go through there.
Well, I mean, and who are those guys? Wow. Those hacks.
All right.
They're never going to die. They're so well preserved.
But the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in Cleveland, okay, we've all got our issues that our favorite bands aren't in there and stuff, but I'm telling you, it's worthwhile.
Oh, yeah. Well, there's a couple friends of mine that just came back.
Very worthwhile.
Brad Adams and Stamper, Susie Stamper. They both they just did the pilgrimage up there.
You know what? I posted a bunch of pictures on one of my pages, and they commented on it.
Yeah, they just got back. I mean, literally within the last 2 weeks. So they said it was
on this
awesome.
road trip, I stopped off and seen where the Woodstock concert was. Wow. And that was pretty cool.
Oh, yeah.
That's hollow ground.
And you just stand there, you can just hear it all. You can just imagine,
Bethel, New York. That was pretty cool.
That is. Yeah, my daddy always told me, he says, because he said I had an old soul. He said, you were only, I think I was 6 when they had, 6 years old. And he's, I would have let you go, just because, you would have appreciated that. And he wanted to go, but, yeah, he couldn't take off work. And
that was 1969, and I was, I think, in 8th grade or whatever. But in 1974, when I graduated, I went to a 3-day concert in Sedalia, Missouri. And it was the Ozark something or other festival, but Bachman Turner Overdrive, REO Speedwagon, and Leonard Skinner there's 3 nights, and they were the headliners. And bands like, excuse me, Ted Nugent and the Amboy Dukes and the Eagles and a bunch of others were the opening acts.
Right.
And it was something else.
Isn't that amazing? That's just, I know, you just don't think about it like you just love these guys and don't realize how big they were going to end up being. And they're legends. They're all legends. To this day, I mean, even though the kids that are, then there's the legacy kids who are legacies of other rock stars or local musicians here in town, or the ones who just want to play music. And everyone that I've interviewed or talked to, they all have the same rock stars that they look up to and learn to play. They love Led Zeppelin. They love, Journey. They love, all the bands that we grew up with, and you didn't think that they would have any kind of knowledge as far as some of the older music, like BTO and Bread. Who didn't love Bread? I mean, they just still had their own sound, and just everyone has a different person that they listened to and really liked, and that's who they picked up. And it's all the music we grew up with, to me, which is freaking awesome, because that still keeps that going. And these kids that you think are listening to shit, they're still listening to the good stuff.
If they have good parents.
And some who don't.
Yeah.
There are still some parents, I remember going to high school, that just, that damn rock and roll.
Have you ever come across or do you know Johnny Rod from Wasp and have you ever had him on your show?
No.
He's a character.
He is a character. I know him. I've met him out. I guess I could reach out to him because I know he'd be in here. But yeah, he's a wild man. He's still a wild man.
We've had him on our show. We've had him in the studio, and he's a character.
Yeah, he's something. He's definitely entertaining.
He's got some stories.
He's like a 40-pound spring in a 10-pound box. I mean, he does not sit still.
Well, he was with Wasp. He was with King Cobra.
Oh yeah.
And he's a native St. Louis boy.
Well, matter of fact, when he plays with Torchlight Parade sometimes.
Really?
Yeah, they grab him up because they need somebody to play. Yeah, there's pictures of him playing with them. So you got to check out Torchlight Parade. You like them for sure. What time is it? It is 9:07. We got to get out of here.
Before we split, I am going to be in town in a week or two, back at 21 Rock.
Yes.
Black Oak's going to be there.
Right. It's going to be a hell of a show.
December 11th.
Yes.
So I'm going to be there for that.
Are you going to play, or are you just going as
I'm
a
just
spectator?
Going to go hang out, and I roadie for them guys sometime. I might be lugging some of their gear. Who knows?
Who knows? Yeah, that's fun.
There was a time when they were on tour and on the road, and it's been like 4 years ago, but they spent a few nights at my place.
Very cool. That's awesome.
If you're in a band and out on the road and you're friends of mine, I'll put you up.
Even if you're not, you'll put them up. Well, that's awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming in. Episode 89, STO Roar, mycitymymusic.com. Rotten Rod in the house. And thank you for your music. And it will be on the app, STO Roar. And thank you, Tweezy, so much for putting up with my shit and all the crazy stuff. Look at that. We're going to take a picture and get out of here. So next week I've got, it's our 2-year anniversary show, and we're going to do a live remote at Steve's Hot Dogs with Steve Ewing, of course, because he was my first guest on my show, and he's so graciously said, yes, I'll do your anniversary show for you every year. So he's freaking awesome, and he's good people. You know Steve Ewing?
I don't know if I do or not.
From his band was The Urge. I mean, you want to talk about, because and we are going to find out, and I know I've said this the last 2 years, we're going to find out how high that guy can really jump. Now, he is amazing. You want to talk about, you don't sit still at their shows. I mean, it is energy coming off that stage like crazy, and Steve is like, woo, he's got springs in his
Can he
feet.
jump higher than Anthony, Tony?
Yes, I believe he can.
Pretty high.
That could, you know what? We could do that. We could do a jump off and see who jumps the highest. Tony and Gracie is who he's talking about.
Yeah.
He does the Journey tribute,
And the Van Halen, he does it. The
Yeah.
David Lee Roth jump.
He does. He has the striped pants. He's freaking awesome. So anyway, but we are getting out of here. Oh, and then 2 weeks we got Frankie Muriel coming in. So from Dr. Chevegas, and he is awesome. He just opened up a School of Rock in St. Peter's.
You know what? One last. Are we still
Paying
on?
it forward.
We're still
Oh yeah,
rolling?
we're still on.
Okay. Check out Rotten Rod on Facebook, and also the Rock Zone Legends on Facebook.
Yes.
Check us out on 97.5 FM or live stream us first Friday of every month at the Rock Zone Legends. We got a Facebook page, and like us because we're hard up for friends.
What time do you guys start?
7 to midnight.
Awesome.
And if you can squeak it in sometime, come on down
I
there.
will squeak it in and come
Big-
on. I'm
big
going to
yes.
bring my sound effects.
Right on.
I'll bring Tweezy. He can fix you up.
Right on. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you. All right, we will see you next week.